The Secret Path by Paul Brunton. Chapter 2, and this is a continuation of Chapter 2. When the craft of science took the winds of the 17th century with Bacon's carefully prepared compass, its crew would have been astounded had they been told in what strange waters it would be sailing in the 1930s. For the ship is bearing down on the harbor of those early philosophers who declared that time hardly has a separate existence apart from the human brain, and that matter is the holding together of myriads of infinitesimal particles in an all-pervading ether. 19th century science pedestaled the theory that life is a product of matter. 20th century science is rapidly effecting a volte-face, V-O-L-T-E phase, and is watching matter dissolve into electrons, into mere collections of electrified particles which elude sight and sense. The step from this stage into the matterless world beyond is not such a far one. Intellectually. Philosophy, once sneered at, Cinderella, is now beginning to come into her own. Philosophy, once sneered at Cinderella, is now beginning to come into her own. Brilliant scientists like Jean and Eddington have shown the inability of physical science to arrive at the nature of things without her help. If we survey the course of scientific and philosophical thought since the year 1859, when Darwin published his epochal Origin of Species, we may trace its descent into the materialism during the last century and its ascent toward a more spiritual interpretation of the universe during this century. The materialists who talk amid Victorian language, in Darwinian accents, are becoming unintelligible to the higher generations of today, who have followed science into the strange findings of Jeans, and Einstein and Lodge. When Einstein showed what a weird twist the sun's rays undergo before reaching our globe, the scientific lights which were guiding us dimmed a little, and men grew wary of jumping to conclude the obvious. So too, the psychology of 50 years ago looks a little woeful at the present time. The studies in abnormal psychology alone have played havoc with the seemingly sound explanations of the time. The new order of scientific inquirers who now concern themselves with the problems of time and causality, especially the mathematical physicists, have opened up entirely new vistas. Einstein, who also taught us to look upon time as another dimension, though we have hardly grasped the full import of this revolutionary idea, and if his later work is leading him anywhere, it is leading him to regard mind as the ultimate reality. We live in an age of applied science. Knowledge comes first, belief is but secondary. We probe every fact or event in this world with a searching why. There is a cause for every visible effect. The old times, when a baffling event was explained by a reference to the will of God or to the fiat of an angel, are gone, and gone for good. Spiritual truth must henceforth stand upon scientific foundation, It must never be afraid of any question, and it must not dismiss the honest investigator as irreligious because he wants proof before he will believe. During the closing decades of the 18th century and the opening decades of the 19th, a constellation of literary and scientific luminaries appeared in the European sky, which indicated and inaugurated the age of reason. God was dethroned, and reason became the throned sovereign of philosophy. Now science receives our highest worship. The scientist is the Pope of today and sits in the Vatican of the world authority. We receive his learned revelation in a spirit of religious awe. We trust his pontifical pronouncements as once nearly all Europe trusted the creeds and the dogmas of the Church. It is not the purposes of these thoughts to decry science, to cast contempt upon the vast structure of patiently acquired facts. I possess a profound respect for the intellectual abilities and patient character of the scientist. I believe his work has its right and useful place in life, but I do not believe that that place is the highest. The practical utility of the scientific method is not to be deprecated. Only the fool will scorn the wonders which science has given man, though we would do well to pause and remember Disraeli's perceptive remark that, quote, the European talks of progress because by the aid of a few scientific discovery he has established a society which has mistaken comfort for civilization, end quote. The fact that the scientist has confined his attentions to the objective world does not reduce the value of his discoveries. He has but to turn his attention inward, to use the same methods of experiment and deduction upon the subjective world, to turn his searchlight of investigation towards the center of his own mind, and he will penetrate the sphere of the spiritual. Science has made the strides of a giant, but all her steps are in one direction, outwards, ever outwards. This is as it should be. Now the time has come to put an insight to her discoveries, to ensoul the forms she has created. In the soul, is the soul a mere academic concept, an intellectual plaything for the professors to accept or deny? Is it something upon which theologians is it only something upon which theologians may victoriously sustain their theses, and at which rationalists may fire their verbal shrapnel? At present, the scientist can find no chemical trace of the soul. He cannot make it register on any of his instruments, as he can make a gas register. But if chemical and mechanical reactions cannot be obtained, he need not therefore give up the quest baffled. Another way lies open. It may not be a conventional way, but it leads to the same objective, the discovery of the soul. If he loves truth better than conversation, if he values the understanding of human life more than he values the understanding of a bit of rock, he will investigate that way. The method I propose to give is an extremely ancient one and goes so far back in man's history that its origin is lost in the dim mists of antiquity. Yet let not this fact be a charge against it, for the ancients were giants in the understanding of spiritual mysteries, but infants in the study of physical science. The moderns are masters in the development of the physical science, but novices in the understanding of spiritual mysteries.